There's kind of a recurring theme about a couple questions that I want to address and bring up. And so we're going to talk about Ripple and the SEC. We're going to talk about global use for XRP. We're going to talk about CBDCs and regulation. There's several different things we're going to touch in this video, and I hope you enjoy this like you enjoyed the last one that I did. All right, so first thing up is basically what happens if Ripple loses the SEC case. It's a great question, right? I think what we have come to, a understanding is that, if Ripple loses the case, XRP is done globally. And I think we need to separate these two things. We need to separate the United States from the rest of the world, okay? And we have to understand a couple things here. The Ripple was sued by the former SEC director, Jay Clayton, and company, Bill Hinman included. There's rumors that there was a settlement back in 2020 that Ripple and Jay Clayton wanted to get into, but Bill Hinman kind of pushed the lawsuit and basically let it up for Gary Gensler's SEC to fight the battle. The case forced Ripple to go out and make more partnerships with not only central banks, but banks and payment providers and fintechs all over the globe. A lot of remittance companies, Trangelo, there's Travelex, Bakkt. You have all these different remittance partnerships globally now, but 90% of Ripple's business is outside of the USA. Okay, so what does that tell you? It tells me this: if Ripple were to lose the case with the SEC, and the SEC, wins and basically, says XRP is a security, what does that do to the United States? It puts them at a big disadvantage. The last several years, Ripple has been working with the Federal Reserve and all of these different systems, the Faster Payments Task Force, the Faster Payments Council, and I'm doing a video after this video about those connections as well to kind of show you that information, because I think I need to talk to you about those connections, and so I can show you those connections to the US government. Now, just because there's one government agency inside the US that thinks that Ripple, or XRP is a security, doesn't mean that the rest of the body, right, the CFTC or FinCEN or any of these other ones think that XRP is a security. FinCEN in 2015 called XRP a currency, as well as in 2019, Coinbase went to the SEC and said, hey, we want to list XRP on our platform. Is XRP a security? And they told Coinbase, no, go ahead and list it. So there are a lot of miscommunications here about XRP in general. But if Ripple were to lose the case, that still doesn't put the US out of being able to use XRP. And let me explain that. The United States government, the Congress, is working on two crypto bills, like a market infrastructure bill for cryptocurrency, and then they're working on the stablecoin bill. You always get that stablecoin legislation first, no matter what country it is, because they want to create wholesale CBDCs so they can use the technology internally. And then you see retails being rolled out. So first off, even if Ripple were to lose, I think that would be actually like the final shakeout to shake all of the other non-believers out of XRP before maybe mass adoption happened, right? You have to understand that the UK just passed regulation, right? What does that do to the US? It puts a lot of pressure on them to get their shit together. Let's be honest, right? Nothing happens in Congress until they need something to happen, and then things can happen very quickly. You saw the debt crisis. Went down to the final week, but then they passed the bill pretty quickly, so they would facilitate that and be able to raise the debt limit. Even if Ripple were to lose, guys, Congress could create regulation and then would give clarity to something like XRP in the United States. Now, you got to understand that 90% of Ripple's business is outside of the US, right? That's a huge chunk of business, 90%. And last year, 60% of all those transactions used XRP to facilitate those cross-border payments, those remittances. So I'm not worried. No matter what happens in the case, I'm still not going to sell my XRP, because I know that I'm looking at the broader picture. And, when we live in a country like the US, we tend to think that, the world revolves around us. And in some ways, some things do, but the rest of the world could give a shit what the SEC thinks. And that's a fact. And we shouldn't be so focused on this one agency that looks to be a pretty corrupt agency inside of the US government, right? And I say that lightly, right? Bill Hinman got paid $15 million to give Ethereum a free pass. He was told by everybody not to say certain things. He did it anyways. Bill Hinman is trash. He's trash. That's basically what I think about the SEC and Ripple lawsuit. I saw one comment say we have to wait till 2026 for clarity. That's 3 more years. Let's address that too. Do you think Congress can wait another 3 years before passing crypto regulation in the US? I'm not gonna, harp on the person that made this comment, but this is what people are thinking about, and these are the things we need to start talking about to address so we can get past this and we can focus on clarity. Regulation is a huge topic. You saw the Markets and Infrastructure Bill just got signed by the King in the UK. The UK is one of the biggest financial hubs in the world. You have like the UK, you have Singapore, that goes into like Asia, and then you have the US, right? When you have the UK, you have Canada, you have, France, you have Italy's working on it, you have Australia, Japan, Singapore, Switzerland, UAE, Dubai, all of these different places have crypto regulation, that is positive, that is clear kind of rules for players to play. The US now needs to get on it or they're going to get kind of left behind, and that's what they're afraid of. And that's what you see in these hearings, because I watch all these hearings, and that's what they're afraid of. They understand that they need to act now. So MiCA just passed. That is the Eurozone, which is about 27 countries in Europe, now have clear crypto regulation. All right? That happened June 29th, which was, 2 days ago. Okay, it's July 1st. I'm recording this on July 1st. It's Saturday. Someone asked if there is much value for XRP in the future, why don't the central banks, IMF, or any country buy all the XRP now at such a low price? That is a great question, and let's address that. There are 1,700 contracts that have to do with the escrowed XRP. Okay, they're NDAs. We don't know who the NDAs are with or for, but do you think it's interesting that Ripple, the company, when they built the XRP ledger, decided to escrow half of the tokens? Why did they do that, right? Ripple knew, the team, right? You had Jed McCaleb, Arthur Brito, David Schwartz. When they got together, they knew they were building a world ledger for the entire world to use that could facilitate cross-border payments, remittances, domestic payments, tokenization of assets. That XRP could facilitate all of that trade. The FX market, the DTCC, which is the Depository Trust Clearing Company market, right? The DTCC is the Depository Trust Clearing Company, and they clear securities transactions. Like if you sold stocks and you're waiting for that, normally it would take 2 to 3 days for that to clear. And sometimes when you're selling something, and let's say you live in a country that the currency kind of fluctuates a bit, you could lose money on that trade just by selling it and waiting those 3 days. But using something like blockchain and R3, who the DTCC is partnered with, they could facilitate that intraday, same day, or they could have instant settlement with that. So R3 is a private blockchain company. They have the quarter settler, and they built bridges to the XRP ledger first, and then the XDC ledger. So I think that the project Ion, which the DTCC was working on for 6 years to bring the old infrastructure into the new infrastructure, they are clearing about 100,000 transactions on that a day. And when they want to go full blast with that, they will start clearing all of that 6 to 7 trillion daily through that system. And they can use XRP to do that, okay? So that's 6 to 7 trillion. But there's also, FedWire, which is 4.2 trillion daily, and they have FedWire Securities, which is 1.3 trillion. That's 5.5 trillion in the US. The UK CHAPS system clears about $1 trillion a day. Canada processes about $400 to $500 billion a day. And then you have Swift, right? Swift GPI, which is just a messaging service, but now Swift can hook in with APIs and connect to different blockchains. When we're talking about all of this, guys, you have to understand that the IMF and other banks maybe already purchased some or have some claim on some of the escrowed XRP, right? And Ripple can decide what they want to do with that. But I do think that once banks are ready, you're going to see a massive amount of buying from institutions. You haven't seen that yet. We're not quite at that pace yet, but sooner or later that day is going to come. And banks want to make money. Billionaires and multimillionaires, they want to make money. And they are going to want the best crypto assets they can buy. And a lot of them are kind of blocked and shown Bitcoin as this one true, cryptocurrency. And Bitcoin is great. I'm bullish on Bitcoin over the next couple of years. I don't know how it's going to fare long term. I'm talking 5-10 years from now. But right now, Bitcoin, it probably is going to, go up to between 60, 100K, maybe in a little bit higher in the next run. I think Bitcoin's going to have a really solid, maybe couple years. But down the line, I don't know if there's going to be kind of bans or anything on proof of work cryptocurrencies, right? XRP is a consensus model. Proof of work, you have proof of stake. And so, the SEC is trying to go after some of these proof of stake blockchains like ADA. Once banks and institutions are really ready and they can see that, hey, there's clear regulation globally for crypto assets, then they are going to jump in, and they're going to jump in hard. And you won't know what hit you, because they're going to buy up all the order books on all of the exchanges pretty freaking quickly, and that is going to reduce the circulating supply dramatically of XRP. And that's where we could be getting a high price. Also, banks could decide to come together and say, we are going to set the price of XRP to $10,000. And we are not going to buy or sell anything less than that. That is going to be the standard medium of exchange for XRP. That could happen too. And I think David Schwartz has kind of addressed that banks could in fact do that. They could go with the escrow and decide that XRP is going to be bought and sold at this specific price. And that would give it a much stable value for that to exchange. That could happen. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'd say there's a small chance of that happening, but it's a possibility. Also, I get questions about other ISO tokens, and we have to understand when we're talking about global payments, we are talking about needing something like a bridge asset, because there's all of these different currencies. The FX market is a bunch of different swaps into different currencies that either businesses or banks need to facilitate different things around the globe, right? They have these Nostra Vostra accounts, but these FX transactions would need to be perfect for XRP because it's a bridge asset, right? You basically have this big ball in the middle, and that's your liquidity. And then you have all of these different spokes connected to the ball. And this is like gold, US dollar, Japanese yen, the euro, the pound, whatever it is, right? Oil, natural gas, silver, cobalt, platinum, whatever the currency is, right? It'll be tokenized and added to something like the XRP Ledger, where it could be traded in those kind of assets, as well as Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and a few others like Ether as well. You have to understand, when the planning for things like the FedNow system, you have to look at who's behind the planning. All right, and I'm going to do a video, like I said, in the next couple of minutes, and it'll come out probably early next week. My video editor's off this weekend. Shout out to Cass and Lawrence. Thank you guys for all your help. But once that video comes out, I'll show you some of those connections as well, right? Faster Payments Task Force. But when we're talking about other ISO tokens, right? Quant is the network of networks. If you ever hear Christina Georgieva, who is the head of the IMF, talk about the network of networks, or the head of the BIS, Augustin Carlson's, they're talking about Quant, okay? Now, Quant is going to be used on a massive level, and Quant's working with a lot of central banks as well. Quant is not a bridge asset. The Quant token is really to pay for things inside of the ecosystem, like any good blockchain, but it's not set up for global liquidity institutional payments. Quant has a great treasury management tool and all these other things, but you can also use XRP to settle transactions on Quant smart contracts and things like that. XinFin is a fantastic ISO token. I would rank my tokens like this: XRP, XDC, Quant, Casper. Casper's not an ISO token, but Casper's in my top 5. And then XLM, and then I would talk about like HBAR and some other tokens that I'm very bullish on. But when you're talking about ISO tokens, XRP was really the one that's been around the longest. Then comes XLM, okay? Then you have like IOTA and Quant. Quant came out in 2018. XinFin came out in 2019. But all of this planning was done much before that, right? And some of the testing was done much before that. So if Quant and XinFin were not out already, and those are probably the two, hey, those would be competitors, right? XRP had the full reign, okay? And they were the ones on all of these infrastructure partnerships. Also, XinFin is in Singapore, right? And Quant, I don't know where Quant is stationed at, but it's not in the US. I think it's in the UK where they launched the business. But Ripple is the US infrastructure partner, right? And that is why I believe that is going to be used in this FedNow system. So how does that work? Okay, so there are public-private partnerships in the FedNow system, okay? These are like Finastra and Volante and ACI Worldwide, and there's 100 other ones, right? But those all can use Ripple and XRP to facilitate trade, right? The Volpay system, which is Volante, and I can't remember the Finastra one, but Finastra has the same thing, right? They have an XRP module, Ripple module, where you can use XRP to settle those transactions. So banks could decide to use those public-private partnerships and still use XRP, right? And kind of get around the SEC thing if they so choose to. I personally think they're going to wait for the clarity, and that can either come from Congress or the judge, and Elisa Torres. I get a question, but how can XRP be used if Ripple's still in the lawsuit? You're thinking just the US. You got to think globally, guys. Crypto is a global currency, right? And when you have 95% of the world saying it's a currency and you only have one regulator in the US saying it's a security, there's a big difference on the tipping of scales there, okay? So we got to really understand that the US is not always the center. In this situation, you know, I do think you're going to get clarity here soon, because it's going to put the US at a disadvantage. If they can't use XRP and Ripple, but the rest of the world can, what does that do to the US? It puts us at a disadvantage. Is there any way to link up with you outside of YouTube? Guys, if you really need help, I have a community called Cryptonaires. It's been about 2.5 years that we've been around. We have a great team. We have a great community of people. I do 2 chats a week that are about 1.5 to 2 hours. I go through 80 to 100 different pieces of crypto news each chat. So that's hundreds of different pieces of crypto news that I find globally. This is what I do full time. I'm on the computer. I'm talking to you 12, 13 hours a day. I live for this. I love this. This is the most important time of your life. And I say that because it's so true. If you focus now and you understand what's going on, what the elites are planning to use to facilitate global trade, tokenization of assets, right? This is a multi-trillion, if not quadrillion dollar system, right? The derivatives market by itself is $600 trillion to $1 quadrillion. And that's not even including private money markets. Think about the private money markets are quadrillions of dollars as well. But think about if you added 10, 20, 30% of the derivatives market and you're using XRP to clear those transactions, what that would bring. You also have the stock market. The stock market's kind of child's play here, right? $5, $10 trillion. The bond market is 4 to 5 times larger than the stock market, but also bonds are being tokenized, right? You see that on HBAR. You see that some of the testing with XRP. You see some of the testing with other ISO compliant tokens, right? Tokenizing of assets is going to be a massive thing. $325 or $328 trillion in real estate, right? Tokenize that. Tokenize derivatives, tokenize bonds, tokenize stocks. You get what I'm doing here? Everything in the world of value eventually will be tokenized. Sure, there's going to be some things that maybe won't be tokenized, some smaller things, but all of the big money and all of the big markets will be tokenized. All right. According to Jim Rickards, BRICS will likely announce their currency in late August at a summit meeting. Yes, that is very true. So I did a video on all of the BRICS connections too. Ripple has connections in India, in Africa. They went to Russia, or I don't know who went to Russia, but in 2019, I think the XRP ledger was tested for CBDC in Russia. South Africa, right? You have 13 or 14 countries in Africa that can use Ripple and XRP, and that's expanding. There's probably more by now, but that was an older article that I went over in my last video. But they could use XRP as a bridge asset in that system. You got to remember that Ripple doesn't control the XRP ledger anymore. They used to, and that's what this lawsuit's kind of some of it's about, but they don't anymore. The XRP ledger is for the globe, and any country could build use cases on top of the XRP ledger and use XRP. That's what you got to understand. It doesn't matter what's happening with Ripple in the US. Other countries can do whatever they want with the XRP ledger because it's a global ledger that doesn't have sanctions, right? You can't sanction the XRP ledger. So if Russia wanted to build some technologies on top of the XRP ledger and use it for cross-border payments, they could in fact do that. JP Morgan and Onyx coin. All right. JP Morgan, I see a lot of people saying, oh, JP Morgan coin is going to ruin Ripple or ruin XRP. Guys, come on. What bank outside of JP Morgan is going to want to use JP Morgan coin? Sure, JP Morgan has a lot of clout. International payments are Citibank, HSBC, and JP Morgan. They have a lot of power. They could force some smaller banks to use JP Morgan coin in the Onyx blockchain. It's a private blockchain that JP Morgan built. But bigger banks are going to stick the finger at JP, right? Every bank is going to tokenize their own assets. You're going to have the Bank of America coin. You're going to have the Wells Fargo coin, the HSBC coin, the Santander coin. Whatever bank it is, they're going to tokenize their own assets so it can be used inside of their system, right? Because all this value now is going to be tokenized, right? Inside of these systems, and that's how that money moves, okay? It's going to be digital. So banks are all going to have their own kind of siloed systems. That's still a siloed system, right? Where it doesn't interoperate with other systems, or you need a good bridge asset to grease all of those wheels, right? And that's what XRP is, right? That's what it's designed to do, is be that bridge in the middle. So you're going to see a lot of other banks come out with their own tokens, but it doesn't mean those tokens are going to reign supreme over the entire system. Banks are competitors, right, guys? I bet you the team at JP Morgan doesn't like the team at Wells Fargo, right? And maybe they have office battles. I don't know, right? I'm not a banker, but you got to understand that these are siloed systems still, and other banks are going to want to use their own systems. I didn't want this video to go too long, guys, and we're already here 21 minutes, but I wanted to sit down and answer your questions. You are important to me. I read every single one of your comments, and I remove the scam comments, and I thank you for all of your support, guys. We're pushing like 9,300 subscribers. We just passed 9,000 like 2 days ago, and I can't do this without your support. So I just wanted to sit here and answer your questions and have a good conversation where hopefully this added value and clarity to what you think about the ecosystem. But if you need help, send a comment. I will respond to you and give you the best explanation I have. I am not a financial advisor, guys. I'm just a very well-educated crypto enthusiast and investor, and this is all I do in my spare time. All right, I hope this is valuable, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.